Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today.
You are Locked On MLB. Your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to the Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover, as we do every single day or every single Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, right.
Oh, I'm tripping over myself, but you know what? We're just gonna keep on going. It's already been that kind of a week so far for your pal Sully. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Over there is my co-host, Millard Thomas, who is the host of Locked On Diamondbacks. Weekly, we get together, we review stuff going on in the game of baseball, and things are getting very interesting as we have fewer games left in the season than they played in the COVID season of 2020. So this is a period of time where your opinion of a team's overall strength in a way doesn't matter anymore because there's so few games left to play that a great team could have a big losing streak, an okay team could have a big winning streak, and it could all mess things up. Hey, follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Millard, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, follow my personal account first of all, because we need more followers on there at Creator Thomas24. Also follow the show account. Just look up Locked On Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram, of course on YouTube and all your podcasting platforms. And this is a big reason why we need to shorten the season, Sully, because like you said, the most fascinating part of the season is upon us. The 2020 shortened season was great with just 60 games. Let's shorten the baseball season because it makes it so much more fun and entertaining.
Here's where I will agree with you to a degree.
Okay.
In fact, I have called for a shortened season. I think it's especially, I think you'll have fewer injuries provided you're not Chris Sale on a bike.
Yeah. Not even a motorbike.
I know.
Just like
I know.
a two-wheel bicycle.
I'm picturing it being one of those old-fashioned with a big wheel at the front, him going around.
Like
as
ET.
someone, I'm telling you, as someone who is a native New Englander, has rooted for the Red Sox all these years, I have to keep reminding myself, he was on the mound when they won the World Series. He was on the mound when they won the World Series. He had a great 2017. He had a great 2018. So everything that has gone wrong with Chris Sale, and believe me, a lot has gone wrong with Chris Sale over the years. The reason why they acquired him was to win a World Series title, and he was a big part of that. I wrote a blog post not long after the 2018 World Series where I said, trade him. Trade him now. Trade him before his arm breaks down. Trade him with his value as high, because I knew he was going to go through. Everyone on the planet knew he was going to go through a ton of injuries. Said trade him right now with his value sky high, and you won't have to go through the heartbreak. And you know what? Every year has proven me right. Yes, he came back and pitched well a little bit down the stretch last year, but he wasn't effective in the postseason, and he wasn't a factor in 2019. He wasn't a factor in the COVID season, and he's not a factor this year. And I'm a big Chris Sale fan. I'm glad they made the trade. The trade worked. They got a title out of it. But if they listened to me, I just said, right there, I said, his values never get higher, and we all know he's going to crumble. This guy is not going to have the long Smoltz, Glavine, Kurt Schilling career. Okay, he's going to break down Tim Lincecum style. He's going to break down Brandon Webb style. And we all know that's going to happen. So get the big, huge prospect for him now. And they didn't. And here we are. He fell off a bike.
But how did you know he was going to break down like this? Because he was one of the most durable pitchers in baseball before all these injuries. He's quite literally had like 5 or 6 200-inning plus seasons.
He had that violent motion that you just sort of looked at it going like he's piling up the innings and it's just going to catch up with him. It's just going to,
Because he had the Tommy John surgery, but he's also had all these other, just like we saw today, like all these random freak injuries. So it's like part of you has been right in that sense, but it's also like injuries that are not even like baseball related, like just riding your bicycle and just doing leisure activities. So like to a point, you're right because he did have Tommy John, but then he's also had all these other freaky injuries also thrown in there. So I don't know. I just feel like because he was so good, he was quite literally one of the best pitchers in baseball at the time of his contract. Like I would rather just have an ace on my staff. Maybe he breaks down the second half of the contract, but I'd rather have that ace instead of trying to trade him for prospects, because look at the prospects that the White Sox got back for Chris Sale. Would you rather have those guys, or would you rather have had Chris Sale those 3 years when he was dominant for the Red Sox?
I notice what I'm saying. I'm glad they made the trade.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no denying the greatness that he had his first 2 years with the Red Sox, and they're not winning that World Series in 2018 without him. I'm not taking anything of that away. None of it. I'll post on Twitter, time stamped. I was saying, do you know what? His value is never going to be higher than right now. And we all know he's going to break down. And he did. But you know what? You can only, I can only grumble so much. I think that he delivered a title for the World Series champion Red Sox. And, it's the same reason I can never grumble at Josh Beckett. That's why when people were getting on him during the whole beer and fried chicken thing, and he's this and this. Well, he also delivered a World Series title. So it gives me, I'm not against him. And of course, I know I was, mouthing off then. I knew they weren't going to do it. I just think they should have. But
spiritually, I would have hated that spiritual, because he was like maybe the best pitcher in baseball, top 3 pitcher in baseball at the time, coming off the World Series. Like, you want to run it back if you're a Red Sox fan. I don't want to see my ace pitcher get traded right after World Series. So spiritually, I would have hated that move if the Red Sox ended up doing that.
Oh, I totally agree. And Lord knows I hated the John Lester trade. Mm-hmm. I hated it. And you know what the funny thing about that John Lester trade is, because I was living in the Bay Area when that trade happened. Red Sox fans hated that trade because they're trading away the homegrown ace of the team, just 1 year removed from winning the World Series, and thinking, this is about money. They can't pay John Lester. If you don't pay John Lester, who do you pay? Homegrown, loved playing for Boston, won the key game of the World Series in 2007, was the ace of the 2013 staff, Cy Young contender in 2014. If you don't keep him, who do you keep? If you're the Red Sox, why can't you sign him? And so Red Sox fans hated it. Meanwhile, I'm in the Bay Area. A's fans hated it because they loved Cespedes so much. Mm-hmm. And the A's, who were the best team in the American League when the trade was made, got in the playoffs by the skin of their teeth with their lousy second half that they had. And they lost the wild card game, in the classic wild card game, to Kansas City, which in that game, John Lester never threw over to first to hold the runners on, and the Royals kept stealing bases at will at him. Let me tell you something. I've never seen a trade that both sides hated as much as Cespedes for John Lester. Oddly, Cespedes was later flipped for Rick Porcello, who wound up winning his Cy Young Award for the Red Sox, and was really good for them in the playoffs in the World Series in 2018, where they used him out of the bullpen a lot too. But it was a wild, weird move there.
And I remember back when the rumors were swirling about John Lester, one guy that was highly talked about maybe coming back to the Red Sox was Will Myers, who was like a huge prospect at the time for Tampa Bay. He was like a top 5 prospect in baseball. And at the time, I wanted the Red Sox to do a move like that, because I thought Lester was a little bit older. He was good, but I never considered him like a number 1 true ace. I thought he was more of a 1B, number 2 starter that was masquerading as an ace for the Red Sox that, performed pretty well in the postseason. So I wanted the Red Sox to go out there and trade Lester for Will Myers. And I'm glad they didn't, because that's why you don't trade good established players for prospects, because they usually don't end up turning out to be as good as you thought they were going to be. So that's why I would have hated the Chris Sale. To go back to what your original point, that's why I would have hated if they traded Chris Sale for a prospect, because they could have done it for John Lester for Will Myers. That would have been a terrible deal, and Cespedes was a terrible deal anyway. So don't even trade your good players. That's the bottom line. Don't trade anybody. Keep everyone.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Look, I said that at that time, and I've been yapping about it. I probably would have hated it too, but and
you were right. Technically,
technically it was right. But like when you make a trade like that, it just sort of the gurgling you feel in your gut just is like, oh, is this going to work? Is this going to work? And you just feel, Yeah, I mean, it must feel when you make a risky move, like when the Red Sox dealt Nomar, that wound up working out in the long run. But just what it must do to your innards and your gut, and you just feel it in you feel in your belly, you feel in your liver, you feel in your kidney, and you probably you wind up putting on weight and make yourself in bad shape. And let me tell you something, it's probably do damage to the inside of your body. And let me tell you something. I don't know if you know what the key to sustainable weight loss, but it's through the liver. The liver is the body's metabolic furnace. And do you know what? It's responsible for flushing out the harmful toxins, igniting your fat-burning metabolism. But thanks to modern diets rich in unhealthy processed food and constant exposure to thousands of man-made environmental toxins, most of us have overworked livers. All right? But now it's easy to rejuvenate your liver health and ignite your metabolism. This is not a Built Bar ad. This is Liver Health Formula by Pure Health Research. Liver Health Formula contains 8 liver-boosting super nutrients like turmeric, beet, and artichoke extract. And you know what? It can turn your body and your liver into a toxin-flushing, fat-burning machine. No more feeling tired, low on energy all the time. And best of all, Liver Health Formula makes it easier to maintain a healthy body weight long term. As a listener to our show, you can try Liver Health Formula risk-free today and get a bottle of Curb Fit with your order. Curb Fit is a safe and natural appetite suppressant. Make it easy to say no to all those naughty foods. This makes it the perfect complement to Liver Health Formula. Go to getliverhelp.com/MLB to learn more. Again, getliverhelp.com/MLB to try Liver Health Formula completely risk-free and claim your free bottle of Curb Fit with your order. Go to getliverhelp.com/MLB now to get started. Well, you and I talked way too much about the Red Sox, a team that is, they know they're not going to do it. But you know what? There's some teams. I talked about this yesterday. It was a foregone conclusion that the San Diego Padres won the trade deadline by acquiring Soto. I had talked about that Cespedes for Lester trade because it was the first time that a first-place team had traded away one of their all-stars in season since the Cespedes for Lester trade in 2014. And the next time it happened was Hader being traded to San Diego. And after that, the Brewers have fallen out of the play. They've gone from being the division leaders to they are not a wild card team as of this recording. They've gone from first place in the division to getting ready for tea time, TEE time, or TEA time, either way. And since the Hader trade. So, but you also had San Diego made all those great moves, and they got clobbered by Los Angeles. And as of this recording, I don't know what they've done to, we're recording this on the 9th. The Padres are in the middle of a 5-game losing streak. They're only 1 game ahead of Milwaukee. And so these two teams that had a stranglehold and looked like they're playing for home field advantage in the wild card round suddenly are fighting for their playoff lives after making blockbuster trades.
Yeah, and if you're like the San Diego Padres, you're like, we can't be doing this again. Because last year, if you remember at the trade deadline, they thought they were getting Max Scherzer. Ken Rosenthal was out there on Twitter tweeting out the Padres are closing in, and then the Dodgers, they swoop in. They don't only get Max Scherzer, you get Trey Turner too. And they look at the second half for the Padres. Not only was it a complete meltdown, they missed the postseason, but I think them and the D-backs were within 1 game of each other in the second half. And we know the D-backs were fighting for that number 1 pick up until their last at bat of the season. And now look at the Padres this season. big trade deadline winners. They had a great first half of the season. They were able to manage through injuries with Tatis like that. They actually performed a little bit probably above their expectation levels. And you enter the deadline, you get Juan Soto, you get the Josh Bells, the Brandon Drurys, the Josh Haders of the world. And now you look at the Padres team and you acquired all that talent. And so far, it has not materialized into wins and basically hasn't even materialized into production because the Padres can't even score runs right now. At the time of our recording this on August 9th, I don't think the Padres have scored in their last 23 innings. Like, they basically acquired you and I, Sully, to go play for their baseball team because Juan Soto out of nowhere has turned into Mike Trout. He's putting up great numbers, but his team is still losing, which is sad to say. And now the Padres, they're hoping that maybe they could right their wrongs once again because you fired, your manager last year. You blamed him for the second half collapse. And now you look at the Padres team, you added all this all-star level talent, but here we go again. Is it going to be another disastrous second half season for the Padres? That's the big question I'm watching out for.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm going to call it. It's the curse of Eric Hosmer.
Ooh.
They traded away Eric Hosmer. Maybe he was the glue. I don't know.
Is that why Sale got hurt?
Yeah, maybe. I'll tell you the other thing is that first of all, I talked about, I was just in Philadelphia last week, and I'm going to be posting the episode that I recorded at Citizens Bank Ballpark later this week. The Phillies have won the games they're supposed to win. They're in the middle of a 5-game winning streak, which has disrupted. They have put their flag into the we're a legitimate wild card team. I mean, only 3 games in the loss column separate Philadelphia, San Diego, and Milwaukee at this point. So those 3 teams are going to be kind of bouncing around there. But you got to give credit to the division leaders. Like I've always said, it's never the wrong time in the season to win a week's worth of games. Well, St. Louis, as we're recording this right now, are on a 7-game winning streak. Okay, including a sweep of the Yankees. So it's not like they were playing. Philadelphia beat up Washington, and Washington's a minor league team. St. Louis swept the Yankees. They swept a really good team. Los Angeles, they're on an 8-game winning streak, and they swept San Diego. So, and the Mets, it's not quite as impressive, but they're on a 4-game winning streak, and they've won 8 of their last 10 games. So you got to give a lot of credit to the division leaders for putting distance between themselves. And look, this is why you build up these leads. You build up the cushion because you've got about 55 some odd games left. You can absorb a 2 or 3 game losing streak a lot easier if you throw in an 8-game winning streak here, a 5-game losing streak there, a 7-game winning streak here. The Cardinals have turned it around. I pointed out that they acquired Quintana and Montgomery, not the sexiest moves, didn't get the attention, but like the Braves moves that they made last year were the moves they needed to do. And I thought St. Louis was going to be the team to acquire Juan Soto because they had so much good tradable talent that was close to the major league level. Well, now it turns out they've made some good deals, putting themselves in position to win the division, and they still have all that young talent. And so they are, I think St. Louis is in great shape. And Milwaukee, don't trade your all-stars when you're in first place, because look what happened after you deal Hader. And they got swept by the freaking Pirates, for God's sakes.
Yeah, and if you remember the Cardinals last year at the trade deadline, it was kind of a head-scratching deadline for the Cardinals because they acquired John Lester, a guy who we just talked about in the first segment, and J.A. Happen. It's like, why are you going out there and acquiring these 40-year-old veteran pitchers who are way past their prime? So this season, they went out there and got a couple of dudes who are still in their prime in Quintana and Montgomery, and those guys are actually having good seasons. Like Lester and Happ weren't even good last year, despite having, a lot of experience. At least Montgomery and Quintana are actually good this season. And then you add, because I think the pitching depth was really the biggest weakness for the Cardinals after Mikolas and Wainwright. I was like, I didn't love that depth. The Cardinals were one of the teams I thought should go out there and get like a Pablo Lopez or a Luis Castillo. Just go out there and get one of those starters. And they didn't get an elite starter, but they got 2 guys that could be their number 3 and number 4 starter in the rotation, added depth for the playoffs. And then you look at that lineup, like every week it's either Arenado or Paul Goldschmidt winning player of the week in the NL.
Or DeJong. DeJong smacked the heck out of New York.
Yeah, so
You
it's
know?
like if you're the Cardinals, like all you needed was a little bit more pitching depth, and you were able to get that this season with Quintana and Montgomery. Like this Cardinals team is legit. And meanwhile, you mentioned the Brewers, like they're going backwards in that division. Like whoever
Yeah.
saw a division leader say, let's trade our all-star closer midseason because we don't want to pay him, 2 years from now. Like that doesn't usually happen a lot. So if you're the Cardinals, you're like, let me take advantage of the situation we have because the other team in our division doesn't seem to grasp what's going on over here.
And one thing it also shown is that the Mets and the Dodgers have really shown that they're the stars of this division.
They've
And
separated themselves.
yeah, and one thing the Mets certainly have done is in this season where they've had injuries. Obviously, they lost Scherzer for a chunk. They lost DeGrom for a chunk. The Atlanta Braves have gone on several massive winning streaks to be biting at their heels. And just this last week, the Braves came in and they had a chance to beat up the Mets, and the Mets beat them up. The Mets wound up, taking it to them, and all of a sudden, if the Braves had swept the series, they would have taken the division lead, and instead, after the Mets slapped them around, the Mets are 7 games ahead of Atlanta. Now, do you know how hard it is to make up 7 games in less than 60 games?
I'm guessing
Especially when a lot of those head-to-head games are already in the rearview mirror, and so the Mets have put themselves in a position where obviously a lot of things can happen, but it will require a massive collapse, and they haven't had that. And now DeGrom is back. He's pitching well. Scherzer's pitching like an ace. Bassett threw a tremendous game the other day. Carrasco pitched a really good game the other day. And Diaz can't be hit. I stand by, and we're going to talk a little bit about where we rank teams in the third segment of this show. I think the Mets are heads and shoulders my World Series pick. With all due respect to Los Angeles, who is right, maybe heads and shoulders maybe a little too rough because the Dodgers are a great team and they have the best record in baseball. But I look at the Mets pitching staff going, wow, you're going to take a look at this team and try to beat them 4 times in 7 games. I think the only way you can knock the Mets off at this point is to beat them in the division series, because you're not going to beat them 4 times in 7 games if 2 of those games are started by DeGrom and 2 of those games are started by Scherzer and one of them started by Bassett.
It's insane. Yeah, I would do tiers and not just straight up rankings with these teams and say tier 1, Dodgers, Mets, definitely in the National League. They're on the same.
Let's do it for the National League. Yeah, let's start with the National League. So tier 1, you got Dodgers and Mets.
Yes, those, right? Okay. Yeah, you want me to go through the whole National
Well, no,
League
but
right
let's take a look. Let's take a look at the legit contenders. Yeah. And let's put our money where our mouth is. Right now, if the NLCS, I think the NLCS right now looks like it would be Los Angeles versus New York.
Yes.
Okay,
tier 1 for sure.
Who do you pick in that Game 7? Who wins?
That's tough. Who's on the mound? If Kershaw's on the mound, I'm probably picking the other team.
But Kershaw's been hurt. He'll probably be back. I mean, Kershaw will probably be back, but
Buehler's been hurt, so who's going to be on the mound? Urias?
This is why I'm picking the Mets. But
they're also the Mets, and we know they're. I also believe in like the juju and baseball gods and like the mystic stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something bad that happens to the Mets that just ruin their chances to win the World Series as well.
No. I think this is the year we give Buck. I think this is the year we give Buck his crown. I pick the Mets. Again, LA could certainly win. I'm not saying they're chumps. I'm saying, if you're gonna shoot at the king, make sure you hit. Isn't that what Omar said on The Wire?
I love The Wire. Yeah, you better not miss if you shoot at the king. Don't. Yeah, I just recently watched The Wire like twice in the last few months.
Good show, folks. I know you were annoyed by your friend saying always watch it. Turns out your friend was right. I would pick the Mets. Now, of the other contenders, the other wild card teams right now, you have Atlanta, you have San Diego, and you have Philadelphia.
Well, real quick, do you care about run differential? Because the Dodgers is still like plus 100 over the Mets.
I don't care. I think that I throw that in the garbage when you're not going to get a 200 run differential when you're facing Max Scherzer and Jacob DeGrom and Chris Bassett and Carlos Carrasco. Those are going to be 2-1.
They're also
Yeah. Taiwan Walker is basically going to be your long man reliever at this point.
he's
I
been
mean,
incredible this year.
he would be the Cardinals' number 2 starter.
Jesus. And David Peterson has been pretty good this year as well. He's like their number 6 starter. Even
Yeah.
Trevor Williams, who's like just their spot starter.
Trevor Williams may not even make the roster.
Yeah, he's got a 3-1 ERA, like 8 starts this year. It's insane. They got like 9
He'll
starters.
get one mop-up appearance in the division series as a mercy from him. No, I think the Mets, and of course they're hitting too. I think everything's going well for the Mets. Obviously LA's a great team, but I would, head to head, I would pick the Mets over them. And who would be the David to one of those Goliaths? Maybe Atlanta.
Yeah, I think if I was to do a tier 2, I think I like Atlanta, St. Louis, and the Padres in my second tier, I think.
Yeah. But and Philly, I think Philly has sort of taken advantage of slumps by Milwaukee and San Diego and the fact that they played Washington at the exact right time. It would not surprise me if Philadelphia became one of the wild card teams because they are a talented team. I just don't see them going far.
Yeah, I got Philly and the Brewers probably in my tier 3 of teams that are like fighting for a wild card spot, but probably not as confident in as like the Cardinals or the Padres or the Braves. Because I like those teams a little bit better on paper. I think they have a little bit of talent. Just because I look at that Brewers like lineup and they just don't have enough dudes for me in their lineup. Their slugging percentages up and down. Like the Christian Yelich downturn in his career has just been so disappointing. Like he's still a dude that's like 30 years old. He's not even old yet, and he's basically been like not very good the last 3 seasons. Of course, injuries has played some part, but I thought he was the best player in baseball those first 2 years when Milwaukee got him. He was basically leading the league in every statistical category from average to OPS. And the after those first 2 years in Milwaukee, he just absolutely cratered. So for the Brewers, I just don't think they have enough offensively.
And you think about those years, what it could have been. I mean, the Brewers are one of the few remaining teams to have never won a World Series title. Milwaukee hasn't had a World Series championship since 1957 when the Braves were there. And, look at he's given them some great memories. He hasn't delivered a ring yet.
Yeah,
and I got a ring.
And I know you want to talk about which teams in the American League can win a ring in the third segment, but if you need a buy a ring for that special someone in your life, Sully, you need to head to BlueNile.com because whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's bent jewelers will then handcraft her perfect engagement ring. Each ring is one of a kind, just like her. Looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today.
All right. That was beautiful. That was really beautiful. All right, let's move on to the American League right now. Well, I think two very interesting things have emerged. The Yankees have not been playing well for the last month. They won yesterday against Seattle, but that ended a 5-game losing streak. And they've been playing sub 500 ball for over a month now. Now, they're still on pace to win like 100, 304 games, which every single Yankee fan would have taken. But they have allowed the Astros, and the Astros haven't exactly been playing like world beaters. They're on a 2-game losing streak going into this game against Texas. They've split their last 10 games, but they trail the Yankees by only a single game. The assumption that the Yankees are going to have home field advantage in the American League Championship Series is not accurate. All it will take for the final, I think it's 55 games, 52, whatever it is, the final number of games that they have, the Astros have to play 2 games better than New York, and they will have home field advantage in the ALCS. That's not asking a lot. And the Astros have, the Yankees have had some pitching issues. And they traded away Jordan Montgomery, which has helped St. Louis. Thank you very much. And Frankie Montas has stunk his first outing, which is a red flag because everyone thought, Jeff Weaver and some other people were going to be aces when they got acquired. And Sonny Gray, all these times the Yankees picked up an ace. It doesn't always work out that way. I love Houston's pitching. I love Verlander, Urquidy, Javier, Christian Javier. I love what they're doing with their pitching staff. They've also bolstered their bullpen. Right now, I think the World Series is going to be – I think New York's in the World Series. It's just going to be a Yankee fan nightmare because it's going to be their nemesis, the Astros, and the Mets are the two teams that I think are the teams to beat in the American League and National League playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the Astros are in the Yankees' heads mentally. And when you look at that Astros team, like you said, they're stacked with that rotation. Like at the deadline, like they were willing to sell off one of their starting pitchers because they're like, we need more offense in our lineup. And we're like actually too stacked in our rotation. We actually have two members, so let's go out there and get a bat. They didn't really do that, but they were able to get Christian Vasquez, who's a really good player, of course, from the Boston Red Sox. And you look at the New York Yankees, basically over the last month, their pitching has really taken a step back. They were like a 2.7 ERA in the first half of the season. It's like above a 4 in the second half. And their most expensive dude, Garrett Cole, has really struggled post All-Star break. 3 starts for Garrett Cole, 18 innings pitched, 14 earned runs, 7 ERA flat. He just has not been good post All-Star break. And you got to wonder, is Garrett Cole, slowing down a little bit in the second half? Even last year, if you look at his numbers, he did seem to slow down a little bit in the second half. People attribute it to the sticky stuff crackdown, but maybe he's actually just throwing his arm out in the first half, throwing too much gas, just using too much energy and then just bringing down in the second half. It is something to watch because you remember in that wild card game last year against the Red Sox, Garrett Cole wasn't great in the postseason last year. And so
he didn't get to the third.
Yeah, he didn't get to the third inning. So if you're paying him $35 to $40 million a year, whatever it is for Garrett Cole, whatever crazy money he's making, like you need him to step up. And like you said, Jordan Montgomery's gone too. Domingo Germán has not been good post All-Star break. Jameson.
Well, Germán pitched okay his last game. To be fair, Germán did pitch pretty well his last game. And
I'm just looking at the overall numbers.
I know. Germán pitched okay the last game, but yeah, I mean, this is no longer. This is clearly still a playoff team in New York.
Yeah,
they're not gonna blow up. Yeah, they're not gonna blow a 10-game lead in the loss column to Toronto. Okay. That being said, is this necessarily a team that you would look at as a front runner to win the pennant, or is this going to be a soft 100 wins that they got off to the great start and then they coasted in? Will they be able to turn it back on? I would head to head. I would much rather have Houston, if for no other reason. If you hand the ball to Verlander in Game 7, I would want Verlander. I mean, it's funny. Verlander now is still the best choice in a Game 7, but he really is. He still is.
He's nasty. It's insane how nasty Verlander is at 39, 1.73 ERA. But for the Yankees, I think they had a very good deadline, of course, acquiring guys like Benintendi and dudes like that. But maybe the biggest questionable trade of the deadline was that Jordan Montgomery trade to the Cardinals, because it was basically it felt like a salary dump. I didn't understand why the Yankees were moving off one of their better pitchers and getting back Harrison Bader, who was already injured and really not that productive of an offensive player. He can steal bases, but he doesn't really do anything with his bat. So I just didn't understand the Yankees just losing depth in their rotation really for not really a good reason, and you're not really getting back a quality position player either way that's going in your lineup and making a difference. So I don't know why the Yankees were let's get worse in our rotation as we're gearing up for the postseason, because now you're looking at their starters. They're starting to take a step back, and it's I could really use a Jordan Montgomery in my rotation right now.
This American League, the way it's set up, is absolutely primed for a David to take out a Goliath. If you take a look at a team like Toronto, who will probably make the postseason, you could see the Blue Jays getting hot for a couple of weeks. You could see Tampa Bay getting hot for a couple of weeks. I could see, Seattle potentially could be, hey, we got nothing to lose, and find themselves in that position. The true wild card is not the wild card, but actually the American League Central, with all the things going on with the White Sox turned upside down all year long, people calling for the firing of Tony La Russa and all the things that have gone wrong with Cleveland this year. As of this recording, Cleveland's 1 game behind Minnesota. And the White Sox are only 3 games back in the loss column out of first place of Minnesota. And Minnesota's playing LA. Minnesota is playing the best team in baseball right now. All it will take is a modest losing streak by Minnesota against Los Angeles, and Cleveland and the White Sox playing well against Detroit and Kansas City, respectively. And we could potentially see a 3-way tie in the American League Central in mid-August. And then that just becomes, then it's no longer about, let's analyze the staff, let's analyze the lineup. Then it's just, let's see how it plays out. And you could, I'll just say one last thing. If a team like Cleveland sneaks in, wins the AL Central, has shrugs and says, no one expected us to be here, with a decent pitching staff that they have, that's the exact type of team that can play David to a Goliath in a postseason series. You look skeptical.
Yeah, we'll see about that, because I like the Chicago White Sox the last couple of years as like my dark horse team out the AL Central, and they just completely crapped the bed both postseasons and just never lived up to any expectation I had of them. So I think whoever comes out the AL Central will probably, you would think they could be a David, you would be like, oh, this team, they could be a sleeper. Maybe they can knock off the Yankees or the Astros. Then they get in the postseason, you're like, yeah, this is why they were in the AL Central fighting for that division lead up until the last day. And I do not want to see a 3-way tie on the last day of the season. I do not need a game 163. What's the point of playing 162 games if you need a 163rd game? Tim Kirchin has told me 162 is the perfect formula for a baseball season. Well, if that's the case, then there should never be a tie on the final game of the season, but that's a different rant for another day. And for the White Sox, I just want to make a quick point. Tim Anderson, it seems like he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. I saw our guy Nash over at Locked On Twins. I think he put out a stat today that basically like the last 3 years when Tim Anderson plays for the White Sox, they're on like a 95 win pace. But when he doesn't play for the White Sox, they're on like a 78 win pace. So the White Sox season might just come down to whether Tim Anderson is playing or not. And with him being out 4 to 6 weeks over this stretch run, like you said, very important, try and get into the postseason, 2.5 games back of that division lead. Without Tim Anderson there, you might just have to call it a wrap for the White Sox season.
Well, look at you. Look at you. Well,
okay.
Look at I don't have faith. I don't have faith in the Twins in the postseason series. I just think that. I still think Houston's going to win the American League pennant, but I would be intrigued by a Cleveland team with a good pitching staff and nothing to lose.
Can I give you the real sleeper? Can I give you the real sleeper in the American League? I don't think it's any, just throw out the Central. I don't even care about that division. Yeah, I don't even care who makes the postseason out that division. I'm never going to watch any of those playoff games because I think
fine.
The Central's meaningless. That's my hot take. But the team that I think is a sleeper is the Seattle Mariners. That's my team after acquiring Luis Castillo. They, of course, have a bunch of players in their lineup that are having kind of down seasons with the Winkers and Suarez's, but I still think they got a bunch of professionals in that lineup. You got the rookie, Julio Rodriguez. You got Ty France, who's been solid. And now Robbie Ray has started to pick it up in the second half. Logan Gilbert's had a good season. You throw in a little Luis Castillo. Their bullpen's been nasty this year. I think their pitching staff from top to bottom has the makeup to be a postseason pitching staff. If you could get a couple of those guys in the lineup to come along for the ride, maybe Winker heats up, maybe a Suarez heats up with the Julio Rodriguez. I like the Mariners as my sleeper team in the American League. If I had to pick someone not named the Astros or the Yankees to maybe take out one of those Goliaths, as you say.
And that would be really interesting because if the Mariners win the pennant, then that would mean every single franchise in baseball will have been to at least one World Series. Because right now, the Mariners remain the only team in Major League Baseball to have never hosted a World Series. So there you go. All right, well, look at
the World Series. That would be a crazy series.
That would be something else. I do believe there's part of me would just love to see Mets versus the Astros World Series because you know that either Buck Showalter or Dusty Baker will have a World Series ring when all is said and done. Well, look it. All is said and done with you. All is said and done with me. We had another really great session here. Millard Thomas, tell people where they can find you on the interwebs.
Follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24. Follow the show account, Locked on Diamondbacks. Just search it up on Twitter and Instagram. We're on YouTube, of course, Locked on Diamondbacks. And, of course, we're on all your podcasting platforms.
You can find us at Locked on MLB Pods for Twitter and Instagram. And I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast, and Instagram. Looking at the post-trade deadline landscape and seeing, do you know what? We could be in for a little bit of chaos, provided the teams that pushed all their chips to the center of the table and said, let it ride, are seeing it ride away. Not in the good way, as the curse of Eric Hosmer falls upon the city of San Diego. This has been the Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover. That's Millard Thomas. I'm your pal, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. We're going to fist pump this baby right now.